The following episode includes discussion of murder, torture, rape, and other heinous crimes described in graphic detail. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of Talking Decon. I am joined today by Steve Wolf, our general manager of the Spaulding Decon Tampa location, and we have a brand new technician here that's only been with us maybe about a week that we wanted to bring in and get his feedback on what he thinks of this industry, how he's handling the jobs, the messes, the nastiness. So let's bring in Nathan.
All right, guys, so we're going to do a little bit of a prank on Nathan. So Nathan actually has this really creepy mustache, and we've been kind of, we work hard, we play hard. So we're trying to get him to join in on the camaraderie and kind of tease him a little bit. So we're going to do a little bit of a kind of a catch a predator style with him. So I'm going to get him to come in and tell him that I'm Chris Hansen and this is to catch a predator. Hi, Nathan. Hello. I'm Chris Hansen, and this is to catch a predator. They are.
Welcome to Talking Decon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Excellent. So this is, kind of unusual stories that we do here, but we wanted to talk to you today because you've been with us for a couple weeks now.
No, this is my first week.
This is your first week, right? You had a massive level 5 horde that you did, or like kind of right when you started. So I kind of wanted to hear, like, what are your thoughts? I'm assuming you've never been in an environment like that before. Like, what did you think?
So, honestly, I was thinking it was going to be a lot worse than it was. Although, as disgusting as it was, and it definitely takes a minute when you go in there to be like, okay, holy shit, this is really gross. I gotta get my bearing on this.
Yeah.
Especially the smell. It takes a little getting used to. I had experience one time. My mom had a friend when I was in high school who was a hoarder, and she had a house that was not as bad as that when it came to the bathtub and the bathroom and stuff, but she had cats who had just gone everywhere, and it was piles in the corner, and so
and she let you guys inside?
Yeah, and she was like, oh, we have this whole family friend group that are coming over and helping out. So I was told, kind of voluntold on a Saturday to go do that, and we did that. And so that was my first experience at 16 doing that. And it was just shoveling cat turds in a bag, you know, and it was with no mask and no, and it was
So how would you describe the odor on this particular one that you went to?
This job, it was just overwhelming with human urine. That was really it.
Okay.
So, because from what I know, it was just a lot was on the carpet, incontinent and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was pretty strong, but it took some getting used to. But when we put the air scrubbers in and we opened the windows, got the good ventilation going in, put our masks on, everything like that, it wasn't too bad at all.
Okay. What do you think was the hardest part about a job like that?
For me personally was the bathtub. She had been defecating in the bathtub.
Oh, wow.
And so it was completely layered and caked, and it had been stuck in there. So it took us spraying, the chemicals and letting it soak for a little while, and actually taking hand scrubbers. And it didn't drain either, so we had to, soak it up with white balls and everything.
So was she using the bathtub because the toilet didn't work?
I believe so.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay.
So it was
elderly person or
she was
two
elderly.
people? One person?
It was one elderly woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there pets involved?
It looked like there used to be cats a long time ago, but she was.
Yeah, so I actually did the estimate for this house.
Yeah.
And I actually got a call from Adult Protective Services. So
she'd already been caught.
Somebody that had was assigned to her, and that they were trying to get her back in the house. And to get her back into the house, the first thing that we had to do was clean the house up. And while I did the estimate, one of the things that we noticed is because of how saturated the carpets were, it was starting to form mold. So we actually did an air quality test in the house, and it didn't come back that it was hitting with mold. But the air quality test did show that it was on that path. And they said if it's not treated immediately, you guys will be coming back and doing mold
I wonder
remediation.
because our humidity is not super high right now. It's our winter time.
Yeah.
I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Because when you were walking on the carpet, was it so wet that it was squish? Or was it more like old dried urine?
It was mostly old and dried, but there was definitely some hot spots on her carpet, like around her bed and things like that. Around certain spots that you'd step on, and it was definitely still a little wet. And then when you cut the carpet up, you're feeling it, and it's like, okay, it's still wet.
So did you guys like learn the story how Adult Protective Services got involved anyway? Like what was the?
So I did during the estimate, and what had happened was.
What had happened was.
Yeah. She had actually got hurt. While she was at home, and she had required assistance, and when they came to help her, that's when it got reported, and that maybe she shouldn't be living there on her own. So a little backstory: this house is on Anna Marie Island, which is a pretty nice area around here, and her house is on stilts.
Oh, so she's right by the water.
She is right by the water. Yeah,
beautiful area.
Pretty much across the street, you can touch the water.
She want to sell it?
And we tried. I actually tried. She said no. She loves her home, and I mean it's a very beautiful home on the outside. And
gotcha.
The layout was pretty decent, even when you walk in and everything. And with some care, it's a gorgeous.
Yeah, but stairs are difficult for older people.
Absolutely. And she had got injured, so she was pretty much stuck in her house.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't come up and down the stairs. Aww. And I know while I was there doing the estimate, and I'm pretty sure you guys explained the same thing. That she sits out on her front porch the whole time, and that's her area because she doesn't. She
can breathe.
She can breathe, and it's warmer outside than it is in her house and everything. She doesn't want to turn on the AC unit because she doesn't want to circulate that smell and stuff through her house.
So were you guys hired to literally 100% trash out, or was it sort and find particular items, get rid of obvious trash? What was the protocol?
It was less of a trash out. It was anything that it was beyond repair we needed to get out of the house. Like the carpets, of course, we're not cleaning those. We got to rip all that stuff out. There were certain pieces of furniture. She actually had a coffee table that it was actually wicker and started wicking up the urine from the carpet, and
no pun intended.
It was white and turned itself yellow.
Oh my god!
And so that, of course, got trashed.
So how long was she living like this? Do we have any idea?
So it was at least 2 to 3 years.
Do we know what sparked the hoarding? Typically, there's a tragic event in their life, like a husband died, child.
So that was the only thing. She hasn't been living on her own very long. Her husband had passed away, and I don't know the exact timeline, but it was fairly recent. I would say within 5 years.
Okay, so that probably was what sparked it, and then just depression, and she just kind of gave up. That's sad. Does she not have adult children?
She didn't have any family members in the area.
Oh, that stinks. Yep. That stinks. So how long did it take you guys to do it?
It took us 3 days. 3 days to do it, or mostly really 2.5.
Okay.
To get that done. Yeah, it was a super deep clean. Just a lot of stuff around that house for sure. But yeah, it didn't take super long.
Okay. How many dumpsters did you guys fill up?
3, right?
Yeah, I believe
3 of ours or 3 of theirs, like a normal city dumpster.
3 of the dump trailers.
Trailers. Okay, yeah. So that's.
Anna Marie Island doesn't really give access for you to put.
Yeah, you got to bring your own.
Nobody really wants to go in.
Thank God we own our own, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I commend these guys for is when I did the estimate, a lot of those appliances, I was like, man, you just got to get rid of them. It doesn't make sense. Like, we're gonna put a lot of effort into it, but they were able to save the dishwasher and the stove, correct?
Yep.
And then of course the refrigerator was a no save. That was a fruit fly maggot heaven, and it was don't open the door because we're gonna risk ourselves letting all these things out and the smell getting even worse.
So did she just kind of hang out on the porch balcony area while you guys worked and really didn't kind of pay attention to the progress until after you guys were like, hey, we're leaving for the day?
Yeah, for the most part. She would come in here and there and just walk in and kind of talk to us. It looked a lot like, she maybe just wanted a friend, sweet old lady, and so she'd come in and show pictures and stuff and be like, oh, this is this and this is this. And then she'd come in and, be worried about, making sure we weren't throwing something that she wanted, away.
Yeah.
And then, we just reassure her, everything, that, hey, we're bouncing everything off of you first and all this stuff. And then she would go back out on the patio and then, do her thing.
So let me ask you, at the very end, this is like one of my favorite parts when they kind of come in and you do that final walkthrough with them. And did you, I'm assuming you were there for that. Did you notice like any change in her personality and her behavior to, wow, when you guys got here, it was a landfill And then when you guys are showing me now, I can now walk and not have to worry about falling. I have food to eat, that type of thing.
Yeah, so there was a couple little ones I noticed, specifically from the first day to like the second to third day. The first day when we showed up, she had not really taken much care to bathe or to put makeup on or anything like that. But once the house started getting cleared out and the smell started dissipating, I think she started to understand, hey, this is like a big cleaning process. The next day we showed up, she had primped, she had gotten all pretty.
Already feeling better, right?
Feeling better, and her mood and attitude was completely different.
Nice.
On the last day,
either that or she really likes Steve.
Yeah. Actually, she was very fond of Mario and Alan.
Yeah.
All right.
She was, yeah. And then on that last day, it was interesting. She started. It seemed she cared more about things on the floor. Like, she'd be like, oh, those dishes, can you also clean this? Can you do this? And she started caring about how her home looked.
Isn't that interesting?
And that's interesting because I'd imagine to her, it's just like, oh, this is what my beautiful home used to look like. This is what it should.
Right. That's like a 180 in her personality. It's amazing to see that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So did you talk to her kind of post cleanup?
We have not yet.
Okay.
Because today was the day. So again, I have to report back to her
APS,
her handler, and pretty much say, hey, here's what was completed. I'm actually waiting for that call back.
Yeah.
I've already let them know. We've finished what we needed to do. We have our certificate of completion. Now, what do you need from us so I can kind of I can talk to Miss. With the homeowner and see if everything is clear, and so I'm waiting for that call back.
Okay.
But I definitely, one of the things that you kind of touched on, and what I'd like to hear a little bit more is, I heard when you guys first arrived, she read the packet and the service packet, and she was not happy about us kind of declaring her as a hoarder, even though she was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't like that label. I mean, that's like name calling. You can call it clutter. You can call it pack rat. You can call it whatever you want. I mean, the thing is the definition is hoarding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, our lead technician, Mario, called me and he kind of said, hey, I don't know what's going on. She might not let us in because of that. And I said, well, that's fine. I can resend the packet under the name Deep Clean. Yeah. And just let her know that we're here to clean and service it. And Mario, being the lead that he is, was able to kind of talk to her. I mean, she had already kind of liked him anyways, so he smooth talked her, and she didn't care. She just signed it and let us do her job. And like you said, as they continued to go through the job, they were able to garner more favor with her.
Of course.
And she liked
she
what
feels
we were
more
doing.
comfortable and stuff. I bet, it's hard to allow strangers in your house to begin with. Yeah. Imagine being embarrassed, living in that manner, and having people come in to help you clean it. I mean, I can imagine that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes, especially with the service package, I think that they feel like that's in their permanent record for that house.
Yeah.
Now you're calling me a hoarder for the rest of my life. Well,
right.
No, it's just something that we define as that service we're providing to you.
Sure. So, most people are going to want to know more about you. Tell us kind of where you're from. What have you been doing before this? How'd you find this position? Is this the first time you've talked to a 12-year-old girl thinking was, an undercover detective?
Oh, jeez. Here we go. Yeah. I knew it was coming. I was waiting for it.
I'm totally kidding. Tell us about you.
Yeah, so I grew up, I was born and raised here in Tampa, Florida. Beautiful, sunny.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school at this little private school called Solid Rock Community School up in Tarpon Springs.
Okay.
So I went up there. I graduated in 2017.
Oh my God, I feel old.
Oh, I know. I'm a youngin'.
Wow.
I immediately, right after high school, enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
And then I did 4 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got out 8-9 months ago now.
Where'd you deployed anywhere?
I just went to the Philippines for a little while, but no serious major deployments.
Do you like the Philippines?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I was in Okinawa, Japan for 3 years,
nice.
So for the most part. So
okay.
Yeah.
Which did you like better?
Definitely Japan.
Really?
Yeah, Japan's a beautiful, great country for sure.
Very clean, I hear.
Yeah, definitely.
Like sterile almost.
Yeah, in certain spots. The cities are cities still, but yeah, their culture is completely wildly different.
Yeah. How's the food?
The food is outstanding. It's literally amazing. And it's so cheap too. You can get like a 3-4 course meal for 10, 15 bucks.
And they always say crazy. Japan is a very expensive, or like Tokyo is a very expensive city.
Oh, it's expensive because you're buying so much food because it's so good. Even at 10, 15 bucks.
I was going to say though,
and then,
they make it seem
attractions
like a San Francisco. Like It's not that expensive?
It's not that bad. I didn't have. I think I went to Tokyo one time maybe, and I didn't stay very long. I went for a day or two.
So you mean the fried chicken cream cheese sushi roll is not a real thing?
No, it's a thing. They have strange things like that. They had
do?
They had
I thought that was an American thing. Fried Pepsi?
Yeah, they have like spaghetti crepes. Like with like ice cream, and it's like really weird. They have like hot dog crepes with ketchup on them. It's
Why are
like
they so
really,
skinny? I don't get it.
I don't know. But the food, even it's super crazy because the McDonald's there.
Yeah.
So like you go to McDonald's here and it's like, oh man, I feel like
yeah.
I feel like shit the rest
Nasty.
of the day.
Yeah.
There, it's like the quality of just their McDonald's is leaps and bounds above the American McDonald's.
Yeah.
It is insane.
They use real meat.
They do, and so
We don't.
Okinawans, they take from the local farms and the local produce and everything, and they give it to the McDonald's, or they buy it from these farmers. So it's like it feels like you're eating at almost a health food restaurant, just a little greasier at a McDonald's. And
like, it really makes you realize the low quality food that we're fed here in the States.
Yeah.
I was in New Zealand several years ago, and ordering beef there, I almost didn't think it was beef. It tastes unbelievable, but it doesn't taste anything like beef in this country. Yeah. And it's because everything is pumped with so many antibiotics and hormones, and because the fatter they are, the more money the farmers get. Right. So it's amazing that our country allows us to eat that, and to taste real quality food, you got to go abroad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely wild. And just the culture of Japan, too, outside of the food. I mean, they're just such built on respect and everything. Like, the service industry in Japan is it'll blow your mind the first few times you go, because you're like, you go to McDonald's, you're expecting like somebody like, what do you want? Kind of just laissez-faire, rude, whatever. They're like bow to you. They're so thankful for the smallest thing. They're like, arigato gozaimasu means thank you so much in Japan, in Japanese. I mean, they're just so thankful for the littlest thing, whether it's fake or not.
Yeah.
It's just in your face with like happiness and pleasantries. And it's like, it makes you feel like, okay, this is like, it makes you want to be nicer to everybody, because you're like, man, everybody's so nice here,
Wow. So one of the things that I've heard about Japanese people is that their culture requires them to literally work themselves to death.
So
is that true?
Yeah. So there's a big issue from what I know culturally in Japan. They have one of the highest suicide rates.
Yeah.
And it's because that culture, although built on honor and
Yeah.
respect, but for families there, it's like, what do you mean you're not working, 60 hours a week?
Right.
Or if you're not, you're a bum to your family. You mean nothing. So people are actually literally making themselves physically ill from working so much, and then like the family life, deteriorates, and
they feel guilty to take vacations and
right
stuff.
and stuff like that, and then they get fired from a job or laid off, and it's like that's it. Their life's over. They're gonna go kill themselves now. It's crazy.
Jesus, that's horrible.
It's literally over one job. They're working an office job. They get laid off. And it's like, oh, that's it. I have no purpose. I'm worthless.
They're all about prestige, definitely.
Yeah.
You don't want to say that your son's like a crime scene cleaner or anything. You want to say he's like a stockbroker or something like that. Yeah. Wow. So how long were you in Japan for?
I was there for I was in Okinawa, Japan for 3 years.
And then you went to Philippines after that?
I went in early 2019. I went to the Philippines for a few months, and then I came back. And then from there, I went to all random little small islands around the Pacific, different places.
What was your job in the Marine Corps?
No, I was artillery. I was a fire direction controlman, so I just controlled the accuracy and things of artillery, making sure it landed effectively.
Like hand artillery or
like cannon?
Oh, cannons and stuff.
Cannons
like
and
that.
rockets.
Okay. Anything on tanks?
No, not directly, because the Marine Corps doesn't have any artillery weapon systems that are mobile. The Army does. So we worked with the Japanese. The Japanese have what's called the Paladin, which is like a mobile artillery system that they use from us. So we worked with them a few times, but never directly.
So how were the Japanese people towards American soldiers?
So that's interesting, because
there's been some bad press.
There has been some bad press, and especially in Okinawa, since it being such a small island, you have, I believe 7 or 8 military bases on a 70-mile long or 100-something mile long and like 30-mile wide at its smallest point. Mm-hmm. You have like 8 military bases there, and most of them Marine Corps. So you can imagine, how that could get, some service members, everybody.
Shit gets rowdy.
It gets rowdy. It definitely does. It definitely does. So, and then so many bars and so many different things, and, we all getting drunk and stuff out there. And
some soldiers have done some stupid stuff.
No, absolutely. And,
warranted kind of the bad thing. And unfortunately, that ruins it for a lot of people.
It does. And then the Japanese, it's very mixed, because if you're a bar owner or an owner of a strip club or owner of a, food establishment, anything near a base, you are making great money because you always have, you're around service members, so you're always going to have great source of income.
Yeah.
Now, if you're the older generation of Japanese, they really shy away from the Americans, the American military, I should say. They don't mind tourists. They're just kind of older and, in their ways on certain things. I mean, it's so much to the same way as like so you'd walk down the street in Okinawa, literally, and there'd be an older Japanese woman with her kids or her grandkids, and they would completely walk to the other side of the road from you. They wouldn't nothing. They wouldn't look at you. They wouldn't say anything, no matter how nice, how great it was. You'd walk into a Lawson's.
Is it because they don't like us or because they're scared of us?
I think they're scared and they don't like American service members mostly because of certain bad apples that ruined it, and then the reputation. And a lot of the Japanese media, they'll pick it up and they'll have press about it, and they'll find the smallest thing and they'll blow it up to all the media of Japan. They'll be like, look what they're doing. Kick them off the island, and then we'll have protesters. We'd have these giant marches, bases, and all the types of stuff. So
wow, okay. So you enjoyed your time then? In the
I
Marine
did,
Corps?
yeah, for the most part. I mean, 4 years was definitely enough, and it's time to get out.
It's a long time to be away from home.
Yeah, for sure. So it was definitely time to move on and get out. So I got out, and then I started working. Had zero transferable skills when it came to technical wise. Coming from a combat MOS.
You mean you couldn't find a job here making a bomb or anything?
It's like, wow, you can't blow up dirt or anything out here. Like it's crazy. No, so I just started working security jobs. I worked in Ybor for a while. I worked during security down there. I worked for a metal company, a metal shop. My brother got me a job at a welding shop for a little while. And then I was just working at Nordstrom, actually.
No way.
I was working loss prevention at Nordstrom.
Oh, wow.
Yep, working at Nordstrom. And then I saw on Indeed the hit pop up for this, and it was like I was looking. So it's super interesting because Spaulding Decon. So I've been watching the YouTube channel since I was like 15 or 16.
You're kidding.
Maybe. I've been a huge fan of like all the gross, gory Instagram.
Fuck, I'm old. He's been on TV that long.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's like so. I've been
15,
watching.
That was only 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
And I'm still taller than you. But
How old are you? Yeah.
I'm 22, about to be 23.
Okay.
So,
okay. Right on. So what's kind of your future goals? What do you want to do?
So right now, I plan on going to EMT school. I start January 19th. I'm going to EMT school for 5 months, and then I want to roll into fire school after that.
Okay. We've had several guys that worked here that were in fire school, kind of simultaneous.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing, and ironically, fire school is just literally a mile away. So
it's right down the road.
It's right down the road. So you're in good hands, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
So one of the questions we talked about the culture shock when you went over to Japan. What about when you came back? You're like, man, it's not what I remember, or not how I had it pictured in my head that I was going to be when I returned back stateside.
Life changes.
Yeah, so that's a big one. I remember being in the airport. I think it was LAX or it was one of the major airports. It was either Dallas or it was LAX, one of the two. But I was stuck on a layover coming home from Japan because they flew us out commercially. And so, the military buys like the worst flight possible for the cheapest price. So they're like, 26-hour layover, no problem. No issues. So I was actually
extra.
Yeah. So I was
sodas, bathroom, all extra.
I was on my way to Camp Lejeune to do my out processing. And so I was like sitting there, and I remember just sitting there. It was pretty late. I was sitting in the terminal, all the seats everywhere. And the lady had talked about a delay of the aircraft for 2 or 3 hours, and then it was like another 2 hours to come 2 hours later. It's like, and then it kept rolling back, and it's not her fault. She's just, the ramp agent doing her job, it's a plane in Minneapolis messes up, and now it's, but I just remember people getting so worked up and screaming in the airport and all this crazy stuff and how rude people were.
That's called American entitlement.
Yeah.
You
So
don't have that in Japan.
It hit me in the face really hard too. And even the Americans, that I'm around, which are service members, it's all about perspective. Experiences in life, whether in the military or not, changes your perspective on things. And so like something as small as like my food's wrong, like my steak isn't cooked well enough. You know what I mean? It's like I don't give a shit. There's so many bigger issues. There's people like, you know what I mean? Like it's so much bigger than that. So it's like
they sweat everything.
Yeah, and it's like it just it blew my mind that it's like, what, like, why are you bugging about this one small thing? It makes zero sense to me. And so that was a huge culture shock too. And then it was just like the crowds of people that I wasn't as used to anymore, like just this crazy amounts of stuff. And so it was like, all right. But after a few months, the transition got harder, and then it got easier, then harder, and then here we are, and it's pretty easy now. So it's not bad. So.
Yeah. How long you been back now?
I think it's like 8 or 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you able to learn Japanese?
Like survival Japanese, and I dumped all of it when I came
I'd
back.
imagine you guys were pretty consolidated on the base, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, on weekends
it's
and
not like
stuff.
they're throwing you out in the friggin' city of Tokyo saying, fend for yourself.
Yeah, so it was only like enough to like order a beer in a Japanese restaurant, but most of them spoke English enough. But it was like, it's like, I want to pick up a Japanese girl. I need to, learn some phrases. I need to know how to say something in Japanese for the bar or a restaurant or anything. So.
And that's how he got on To Catch a Predator.
Yeah.
Chris Hansen went over there and said, "You don't have to learn Japanese here."
What if you learn Japanese in prison?
Yeah, you can learn that in prison.
Very good.
What else you got?
That was pretty much it. I wanted to make sure that he was up to speed. I don't know if he's going to hack it. I think he can.
I think he can hack it. Yeah.
So one of the things you did talk about, you watched our YouTubes and about kind of the other services we have. So far, you've only done the hoarding. What do you think about your past life experiences get you ready for the biohazards, the water jobs, the mold, the fire remediations that we're also going to do?
Well, I think I'm pretty prepared. I mean, I've been through some gross environments, like being in the field in the Marine Corps or anything, and just sleeping in mud and mold. Your barracks rooms are all moldy anyways, so it's like you learn to clean mold that way. I mean, there's black mold, and they're like, it's not black mold.
Awesome right now.
Yeah, and then it's like they inject you with But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Biohazard, it just doesn't gross me out. It never has. Small experiences here and there, like perfect examples on base. I was on Camp Hansen in Okinawa, and me and my roommate were walking to the range one morning, like 4 a.m, and there was a Marine that was missing for about 7 or 8 days at that point in the Okinawa sun. But he had been drunk, and nobody had heard from him, and they couldn't find him, and he was dead in a ditch about 30 feet from where we were walking. And we smelled it, and it was like, man, what is that smell? And that was the first time. He was like, man, that's like, what is that smell? That is like, smells like a deer, but it smells like a snake, but it smells sweeter, and it's like this weird,
it's not gamey, it's human.
Yeah, it's like, wow, I've never smelled that, And then turns out, the next day they're like, oh, we found his body, and it's like, where was it? And it's like, it was right there. And I mean, it'd been
So was he just drunk and they just passed out in the
ditch?
ditch?
So the investigation's still open. They were, they're investigating for, a homicide, or what they think happened was he just got really, really drunk. His girlfriend broke up with him, got really, really, really drunk, and then ended up falling in this big concrete culvert and hit his head, and then
that'll do it.
That'll
do it. So you've smelled decomp.
I have, yeah.
There
and
you go.
At the moment, and I've smelled, I grew up hunting and everything, and smelling animals and things, and
it's different though, right?
It is. It is different smell.
I grew up with that as well, and it's very gamey when it's like a raccoon or a possum or a deer or something. It's very gamey. Human smell, it's really hard to describe. I mean, I remember thinking my very first time I saw a dead person, I was like 23 years old, and I just got out of field training, or I was in field training as a police officer, and it was kind of one of those things where the motel owner called and said, hey, the guy in unit 604 is dead, so we go up there, and of course they're like, hey, that's the newbie, let's throw her in there or whatever. And I remember seeing, this is the first time that I learned, when you die, your body expresses with the gases, and you just get extremely bloated. So I remember getting there, and it looked like someone had pumped him up.
Okay.
Like it was that obvious, like, water retention or something, but it was gases. And then I noticed that his skin started to peel, like almost like a really bad sunburn, but obviously he was indoors.
Like when you get a blister and it starts to spread.
Yes, but it was on his face and on his arms and stuff. Okay. So I'm just standing there, and, of course they're trying to figure out, is it a natural death, or, what's the cause of death? And I remember the funeral home or coroner's office coming in there, and they've got their body bag, right? And it's 2 guys, and they're dressed in like white button-down Oxford with a tie. I mean, they're representing the funeral home essentially. Okay. Yeah. So, and I'm thinking, God, I'd hate to wear that right now and be moving that guy. Yeah. The minute that they grabbed his arm to put him in the bag, he totally had a skin slip.
Oh, and it just degloved
him.
Oh,
it degloved him. And I was like, holy shit. And then when he fell, because he degloved him, he popped.
Talk about a spaghetti stain on your white shirt.
I was like, their clothes are shot. I hope you guys, shop at TJ Maxx or something, because that shit's got to be expensive. Yeah. But the first thing that I smelled was rotten eggs. It was like
all the bile
popped,
and everything like that. Yeah.
And he just popped. And all of a sudden, that big old stomach went down to nothing.
So do you think that's more of the human composition, or is it because of the bullshit that we put in our body, of a combo of...
I think it's normal. I mean, we're made up mostly of water, allegedly. I'm made up mostly of fat, but, most people are made up mostly of water. But when you die and your blood stops pumping and stuff, the gases just blow up. Well, like in his case, the environment plays a big role on how quickly you're going to decompose. Okay. So if there's nice 65-degree AC or whatever, you're probably going to preserve for a while. Yeah. This was hotter than hell in some, rent by the hour apartment. Mm-hmm. So he was probably decomping way faster because of the heat. Yeah. Yeah. And then, we pop because we want to release the fluids, and then we disintegrate down to bones.
Yeah. And then in your situation, the guys outside, it's pretty humid there too, right?
It is like Florida on steroids. It's like you walk outside, like you try to get between like the barracks door to like the curb on the outside of the sidewalk, and you're already soaking wet from sweat. Like literally like 10 steps out of the door. Man, it's like breathing with a plastic bag on your face.
It's that bad. It's worse than Florida?
In the summer, yes. So the only difference is like Florida doesn't have as much sea breeze as a small island does, so that is nice. But when the sea breeze is not there, it is so humid. Wow. It literally feels like there's like a swimming pool around you in the air. Like it's just, I don't even know how to describe it more than that. But like a plastic bag on your head.
Well, the investigation's probably still open on it because I'm assuming animals got to them.
Yeah.
So that makes an autopsy difficult.
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah. So, we were in a what's it called? A morgue. Mm-hmm. Not too long ago. I would say it's been maybe 6 months ago. And we were there because they were having, they wanted us to disinfect the morgue. So they had 3 freezers. And when I say freezers, I don't mean like residential freezers. I mean, you're rolling people in. Okay. They could hold probably 12 to 15 bodies per freezer, right? Wow. So you're walking in there and there's a freezer on your left, freezer on your right, and then there's another one up here. And of course, everybody's in a bag. And then they've got the toe tag on, right? Uh-huh. So I'm walking through there, and they're literally doing an autopsy right there. Like, you walk through the double doors, and they're doing an autopsy right there. And I'm like, you just can't help but stare, stare at it. And it's, some guy or whatever. But, man, I kept walking through back to the guy's office, and something caught my eye. And I looked to the right, and it was a child. Oh. And they had cut the head. He was laying in the block, and they had cut the head so they could open up and see the brain and stuff. And I don't know what it was. Maybe SIDS or something like that. He was probably 4 years old, but I'm like, man, why did I have to look? Now I can't get that shit out of my head, and it's been 6 months. No. So it's just, that stuff just bothers me. Just bothers me.
I couldn't imagine, like, we've discussed, other instances, but I've never come across a body of a child. I think that would be very dramatic.
It's horrific.
Yeah. And, again, we talk about, people that are defenseless, and even animals and stuff. Those are the things that are most traumatic to me, even on any situation, is like, they couldn't do for themselves, and, someone took advantage or someone harmed them. That's just the worst.
Yeah, it's horrible. When I was in college, and you guys might have read this, I don't know, it's been probably before you were born, but when I was in college, I read a book called A Child Called It. Mm-hmm. Have you ever read that book? Mm-mm. It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying. And the cool thing about the book, the author was the child. He lived. Wow. And he gives the first-hand accounts of what he went through with his mother, forcing him to drink bleach, locking him in the bathroom, not feeding him, starving him. And it's just the stuff that these kids go through, you know, it's horrifying. It's people don't realize how lucky we are to have food and, you know, be treated decent.
Yeah, and to me, I as a parent, I don't understand how a parent could do that to their own flesh and blood. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, there's times my oldest 15, my youngest 2, that, you know, they do something that aggravates me or upsets me, and even when I know I'm doing something to discipline them the right way, it's still like I'm sitting in the back of my head like, did I have to discipline that way? Like, did I go too far? And it can be something as my 15-year-old, like, dude, stop being a dumbass. Fix it. A lot. And then I'm looking like, should I have called him a dumbass? Like, dang, how's he gonna take that? And, and then you hear these stories of these guys just mutilating their own flesh and blood. And I'm like, how?
Yeah. You know? I don't get it. I really don't understand it, but that's one of the hard parts about the job. You know, there was this one case, and this was like a domestic violence thing, and you know, domestic violence calls are so frequent, right? Like you almost get numb over it. But there was a boyfriend girlfriend situation, and he turned the oven on, and he held her in the oven from the torso bent forward. So from the torso up was in the oven, and from the torso down was standing on the floor. And I guess he held the oven door closed while it heated. So when we got there, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I had never seen anything like that before. She was white as white could be from the waist down, and she was complete charcoal from the waist up, like unrecognizable. He had to have held her there for a long time, burned her alive, like cooked her alive. Like, it was one of the worst domestic violence cases I've ever seen. Wow. It was absolutely horrifying.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I want to welcome you. I think you're a great fit here. Military people do fantastic in this because they're very process oriented and just kind of get in, go, improvise, and overcome, right? You kind of figure it out and move on. So welcome here. We're very grateful to have you. And if you need anything, Steve's available. But thanks again for watching today's episode of Talking Decon. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Crime Scene Cleaning. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Talking Decon. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Crime Scene Cleaning on YouTube for more content, and follow at Crime Scene Cleaning on TikTok and Instagram.